Welcome to the debate. We're opening the discussion today on a really crucial strategic choice facing the Los Angeles Lakers organization. And it's a choice that seems to be a little obscured by all the prevailing noise around the team's needs.
And that noise, I think it's important to say, has been very consistent. I mean, every major report, every analysis of their shortcomings this season, it all points to this almost singular organizational obsession, repairing foundational defensive issues to become a real championship threat.
Exactly. And that consensus, while it's logical, it misses a pretty compelling opportunity presented in the material we're looking at. The core tension isn't whether the Lakers need to improve, but where they should invest their scarce resources. We have this dominant narrative about defensive fixes, but the alternative, securing overwhelming, truly elite offensive separation, that offers a much higher ceiling.
Which I think forces us to really define the central conflict here.
Absolutely. So the central question is this: should the Lakers prioritize acquiring elite offensive talent, specifically a high-volume movement shooter like Donte DiVincenzo, to get into that top 3 territory on offense, even if that means you have to treat core defensive weaknesses as issues to be, well, just patched and schemed around?
And I'll be arguing that relying on an average defense, or frankly a vulnerable one, even if you pair it with an elite offense, is just an unacceptable strategic risk. You have to address the foundational issues first.
And I'll be arguing the inverse, that maximizing offensive firepower through, high-volume, efficient off-ball movement is the real golden opportunity here. It's a move that tilts the balance of power, creating an offense so dominant it actually lessens the burden on the defense.
Okay, so let's get into that. Let's delve into your argument for prioritizing offensive overkill. How does focusing on a unit that is already, top 7, translate into a higher strategic return than, fixing the obvious flaws?
Well, my thesis rests on the concept of scarcity and flow. We know the Lakers already have a high-end offense, right? It's largely driven by the gravity of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, plus Austin Reeves' development. But as the analysis points out, the offense often feels heavy. It relies on iso ball, on post-ups, on on-ball creation. What they lack is systemic flow, that constant, suffocating pressure from elite, high-effort off-ball movement.
Flow, right. But that's a big concept. How does one player just supply that?
Because DiVincenzo is one of the few non-superstars in the league who actually can. We are talking about elite, relentless off-ball movement paired with confident, high-volume three-point shooting. His three-point volume would instantly rank among the highest on the entire roster, and he's converting at over 37%. This isn't just spacing the floor. It's a mechanical stress test on the other team's defense.
It forces rotations, sure.
It forces continuous, stressful rotations. The upside is transformative because you get immediate scoring through that movement, which forces opponents out of their preferred game plans. And more critically, it pushes that offensive unit from just very good into that crucial top 3 territory. When you hit that tier, you fundamentally change the math of a 7-game playoff series. I mean, overwhelming offensive firepower changes the calculus entirely.
I see why you think that. And I do recognize the rarity of that precise skill set, the movement and efficiency. But I frame this calculus completely differently. If the organizational consensus and all the analysis is focused on fixing the defense, that isn't just a preference. That, to me, indicates a fundamental, structural, and, a potentially catastrophic flaw.
Catastrophic is a strong word for a team that's already shown it can succeed in the playoffs.
But not achieve championship success in this current climate, not without major defensive improvement. The material itself points out some really concerning issues. The team ranks near the bottom 10 in both three-point attempt rate allowed and overall three-point efficiency. I mean, these are deep cracks. The goal for a title contender must be championship defense, not just, average defense.
And those cracks are precisely what DiVincenzo's pressure alleviates. If you score more, the opponent has fewer chances to exploit them.
That assumes a level of offensive consistency that playoff defenses are designed to negate. The argument that, history shows offensive firepower can survive and thrive with average defense is, I think, an overly optimistic reading, especially in the Western Conference. Prioritizing this offensive luxury risks neglecting the personnel you need, the foundational pieces, to fix your perimeter containment. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. We have to address the foundational cracks before we go building a penthouse on top.
Okay, let's address that tension directly because this is the core of it. I contend that generating true offensive separation, moving the offense from, say, top 7 to potentially top 3 or even top 2, offers a higher strategic return than chasing some incremental defensive improvement. Defensive competence can be achieved through disciplined schemes and role players. Elite offense requires rare, specialized talent.
And why is that return higher? Defense is about consistency, the ability to dictate terms, especially when your stars are trying to conserve energy.
Because the function of an elite offense is to break the opponent's rhythm. When you have an offense performing at that level, it forces the opposing team into a constant reactive posture. And this translates directly to a defensive advantage because opponents are forced into, forcing shots, rushing decisions, as the source material puts it. It's a psychological drain. They don't have time to run their sets because they're constantly taking the ball out of the net.
I agree with the psychological part, but that only works if the defense isn't already porous enough to just give up easy buckets in transition. You're asking a top 3 offense to cover for what could be a bottom half defense in terms of personnel. So let me ask you, can the Lakers truly survive and thrive with just average defense in a 7-game series against a team designed specifically to exploit those perimeter weaknesses?
I think they can, because the value of DiVincenzo specifically justifies this radical shift in priority. Think about the geometry he provides. A top 3 offense forces opponents into an existential choice. Do you risk leaving DiVincenzo wide open on the perimeter as he's running around, or do you dedicate an extra defender to tracking him, which then relieves pressure in the paint where Anthony Davis operates?
Okay, but that assumes a healthy Anthony Davis. The core personnel issues are still there. Defense needs 5 people locked in. If your stars are aging, if they're conserving energy, your system has to hold up. It feels like you're trying to find a shortcut around a defensive deficit that's about effort as much as it is about scheme.
This isn't a shortcut. It's a recognition of where the true scarcity lies. The material highlights that DiVincenzo's movement-generated scoring is at a level that only a handful of players in the entire league, the true superstars, actually reach. This is a revolutionary offensive shift, not some marginal upgrade. Finding that kind of impact is fundamentally harder than finding a good wing defender.
I'll grant you that finding that specific offensive skill set is difficult. But the Lakers' immediate crisis is tied to personnel who struggle to contain the perimeter. A scheme can only hide those deficiencies for so long before they're just systematically exploited in the playoffs. We've seen this happen again and again. Balance isn't a preference, it's a championship imperative.
Balance is the safe imperative. Separation is the winning imperative. You beat elite defenses by breaking their rules, and there is no better way to do that than with relentless, efficient, movement-based three-point shooting.
All right, let's pivot to the specifics of the fit then, because that adds another layer. I acknowledge that DiVincenzo's contract is clean, manageable, and it offers long-term flexibility. That's a huge asset. But let me press you on the statistical flaw the source identified. The Lakers rank near the bottom in three-point attempt rate.
Yes.
A persistent structural flaw.
So does DiVincenzo truly solve a systemic issue like a low attempt rate, or does he simply mask it? He raises his own attempts, sure, but does his presence fundamentally change the offense so that other players are also getting more shots? Or are you just trading a necessary defender for a hyper-efficient luxury item that doesn't fix the underlying geometric problem?
That's a fair point, though I would frame it differently. He doesn't just mask it, he corrects the systemic cause of the low attempt rate. The problem isn't just that they don't shoot enough threes. It's that they lack a perimeter player who is consistently bending defenses without touching the ball. That inability to force rotation is what allows defenses to stay home, to clog the lanes, and to eliminate the very drive and kick chances that would raise the team's attempt rate. So you're arguing his value is less in his individual scoring and more in his function as a system lever?
Precisely. He changes the offensive geometry. He is one of the very few players in the entire league who can shoot at that volume and still maintain 37% efficiency while running constantly. That ability is the exact systemic weakness he corrects. This unique value is harder to find than perimeter defense, which, as I've said, can be patched. Finding an average perimeter defender is just easier and cheaper than finding a player who moves your offense into that top tier.
But that presupposes the Lakers can even find and afford those defensive supplements after using their main trade assets on DiVincenzo. Let's move to the biggest hurdle, logistical viability. Because the theoretical value runs right into market reality. The material suggests Minnesota trading within the conference is, quote, never simple.
That's historically true, yes, but we have to look at the specific context of this negotiation.
We do. And the source suggests the asking price might not be extreme because the Timberwolves have been talking to a team that famously lacks draft capital. This suggests a potentially lower baseline, but that's still a speculative assumption. If the Lakers use their only available first-round pick on this move, they're committing entirely to an offense-first strategy. They sacrifice their ability to bundle assets later for a necessary defensive upgrade. They risk pigeonholing themselves.
I'm not convinced by that, because the immediate value proposition overcomes the logistical hurdle. If the T-Wolves' low asking price, which is suggested by those baseline talks, is even relatively accurate, the Lakers must seize this opportunity, even at a slight interconference premium.
The logistics of trading a high-impact player to a direct conference threat means the T-Wolves would demand a premium. It's just business. The Lakers aren't dealing with a fire sale, they're dealing with a competitor. It is a fundamental miscalculation to assume a clean path just because the contract is clean.
I disagree, because the opportunity cost of not securing a player who does this specific, rare thing is higher than the asset cost of getting him. If you wait, the market for high-volume movement shooters, which is already incredibly tight, is going to dry up or become prohibitively expensive. This is a rare, high-leverage asset. You secure the scarcity first, then you supplement the stability later.
But the risk is that he doesn't fully fix the attempt rate issue, and now you have no capital left to get the point of attack defender who can slow down the very players who destroy the Lakers right now. You might have a top 3 offense, but if you have the 20th ranked defense, you are fundamentally flawed for a 7-game series.
We can't assume they'd be the 20th ranked defense. The offensive pressure will mitigate some of those defensive issues. My point stands. If you are guaranteed to move your offense to a generational level, you take that deal. You acquire the piece that is hardest to find.
But you're relying on a philosophical belief that the offense will compensate, rather than solving the empirical problem staring the front office right in the face. They need to stop the bleeding on the perimeter. DiVincenzo does not stop that bleeding.
We've certainly explored the trade-offs here. Let's summarize where we stand.
Agreed. I maintain that while everyone is fixated on defensive necessity, the Lakers have this golden, fleeting opportunity to pursue true offensive separation. DiVincenzo's impact pushes the team past just very good into elite territory. That ability is a uniquely transformative asset that warrants the highest priority. If the price is manageable, seizing the chance for an offensive revolution is the superior strategic path.
And I maintain that while DiVincenzo is a high-value, contractually clean asset, this whole debate is about strategic priority and risk management. Ignoring the acknowledged foundational goal, fixing a structurally vulnerable defense, in favor of an offensive luxury, is a deviation from a proven championship blueprint. You can't just scheme away deep structure.